Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. It's Kevin Koym with Venture Outfitter, the Tech Ranch Venture Outfitter, working from a home studio office today because of Austin's weather, and excited to have. We have a number of new people here that we're real excited to have. So I'm looking forward to kicking off this Venture Outfitter. As you know, the Venture Outfitter is here to discover talent, develop talent, connect talent to opportunity, and help it scale. And the talent that counts in our world is entrepreneurs that are driving impact innovation, technology that solves human need. Real excited about having the entrepreneurs that are here that are driven by vision and values. And today will be a little bit more informal because what we're going to be doing is right now, part of what's happening here in Austin, Texas. This is not a lot of ice, not a lot of snow, but for Austin, it actually kind of is because of the weather that we just had. We have 20-degree weather going on right now, right outside. There's lots of ice everywhere. We don't really get snow. It comes down, it hits, and then it freezes. And so it's not safe to drive on. But I thought this was kind of fun. One of our members sent me a note earlier today and said, "Hey, I can't necessarily come to the meeting today, but I want to share this video." And I thought it was for historical reasons and Austin's reason. It might be fun to watch as part of our just introduction to what's happening in Austin right now. Let's see if this works. Up, one click.
You know the nearer your destination, the more you slip sliding away.
This is Austin's third snow in 30 days, and by now Austinites are well practiced in the various methods of freeing a stranded car. Bystanders came out in droves to help those less fortunate than themselves, many staying for hours. How long have you been here?
Since 2:30.
Now, are you helping people?
I've been helping people and just about give out.
I thought it was kind of funny to talk about really quick that there's this history of Austin taking care of each other. But for those of y'all that live in other parts of the world and other parts of the U.S. as an example, Austin typically doesn't get that much snow, that much ice. And so it just was kind of fun to see this piece of video that went all the way back to 1985, where we've been dealing with that. When we get bad weather, it gets really bad because we're not prepared for it in lots of ways. Hey, one thing I want to mention really quick before we get into the problem solution part of our talk today is coming very soon. Global Health Security Innovation Week is going to be happening, and as you might or might not know, Tech Ranch, alongside with University of Texas at Austin, Texas State University, several of the universities across Texas we're on the steering committee for the Texas Global Health Security Initiative. And there is going to be a innovation week where we're going to be talking about activities that are happening around pandemics and things like that. For those of y'all that don't know, Tech Ranch is in partners with the Pandemic Tech Accelerator for about since 2017. I like to say we're doing pandemics before pandemics were cool. And so the thing that's interesting is we partnered up with them and our colleagues at Austin Technology Incubator to pull together the Global Health Security Innovation Week. This is going to be tied into South by Southwest. And one of the things that I'll mention about this is we do have opportunities for those of y'all that are in out there to participate in this. You will not need to have a South by Southwest card to participate in the Global Health Solutions Week. And as many of you know, my personal focus for global health innovation or security is we introduced a group called the Mental Health Special Interest Group, which is a subset of the overall architecture that's being put together for global health security. On the 15th, in conjunction with the Meadows Institute, as well as the Hogg Foundation at UT for mental health, we're going to have a special day that's going to include some top tier speakers talking about how we can actually work together on mental health, brain health, different solutions like that. we will make sure that part of that rolls into what's happening with the VO Weekly. But I want to make sure that you know about this because I'm the chairman of the Mental Health Special Interest Group for Texas GHS. And the real goal of what's happening here is not just having March 15th, but getting this $1 billion foundation and this group at UT and all these different partners to build a trajectory so that we can actually use all the hard things that happened during COVID. Let's make sure that we chart a path so that not only do we get back to quote unquote normal back in 2019, but take the crisis that happened both with the virus as well as in mental health and take it much farther. I myself have lost two friends at their own hands during COVID. And I've been really concerned about this. In fact, there's one other thing I kind of wish I had put on my slides that I just want to mention real quick. Working in conjunction or supporting the Texas Suicide Prevention Network on March 1st to the 3rd. If you want to gain information about, there's going to be a suicide awareness program as well that's happening that week. And so you can go to techranch.com/events. Jello, if you can, put the URL in the chat, and you can participate in that or support that network as well. And then the Global Health Security Initiative is going to even start to chart out the bigger path of our goal is to get as many startups, not only in the virus area, but also in mental health. I want to get 40 different startups that we're able to put in front of the investors and that we'll have. And, when we have, I'm real excited that the Meadows Institute, which is a $1 billion foundation, that just landed a $10 million grant for some of the work that we're doing is there. And so I know before we got on the camera, there's some really cool stuff that was being talked about. And I was like, oh, we should put this into the today's talk as well. Thank you to one of our sponsors, DuoWorks. Although I'm not working at DuoWorks today, our normal office and studio is at DuoWorks. DuoWorks is a co-working place. Linda Blackman, the woman who runs DuoWorks, is one of our members from way back when. And so thank you for being one of our sponsors. If you need anything from a mailbox all the way up to a closed door office, they've got it. And the best part about it is they're right in the middle of Austin. If you look at a map, they're right at where 360, 183 Mopac intersect. And for those of y'all that don't know Austin, why is that important? You have access to the whole city. So thank you to them for being one of our sponsors. If you're not in the Adventure Outfitter, we do have paid for programs, but we have a free community. And I had been talking about the paid for programs a bunch in previous iterations of the Adventure Outfitter Weekly. And I had several people come to me and say, hey, I don't have the cash to pay right now. And I'm like, oh, crap. Part of what I need to make sure to communicate is we just want you to be in the community. Especially for entrepreneurs that like we have entrepreneurs from, Texas to Nigeria, Lithuania to, let's see, actually, I guess I should say Lithuania to Nigeria, Australia, all the way over to South Korea the long way. And so the idea behind this is get involved in the community. If you don't have access to the Slack and to the Mighty Network that we have, make sure that you're on it because we'd like to have you interact. Especially in the Slack, there is a channel called #request that if you need something, one of the easiest ways of sharing this with others is to actually say, hey, this is what I'm looking for. And so, the thing that I actually really try to do is we won't preclude anybody unless they're a bad actor for some reason. But the thing that we really do drive towards is this notion of entrepreneurs that are driven by vision and values that are focused on what we call impact innovation, technology, or solutions that solve human needs. So excited to have a bunch of people here around that. And one of the things that during the problem solution part of today is we're here to kind of talk about what should we have during these programs. We're starting to gain some momentum. And I know that I've, the last a bunch of the programs that we had about refugees and how entrepreneurs are bringing technology to solve that. when we had one of our entrepreneurs named Andrew say how he, using the network, saved 1,200 Afghans back in August of last year to get them out of Afghanistan during that crisis period. Real excited about that sort of stuff. But I really wanted to go ahead and say, I'd like to hear from the community about what you guys would like to see. And so part of the thing that, by the way, Jello, if you'll handle stuff, if there's a little bit of noise in the background while I'm talking, make sure you grab that. The thing I was just going to say is, if at all possible, the thing to do is to tell us, and we're going to have that be part of our problem solution community conversation of what should be coming soon. In a little bit, we'll have Inez talk about what she was just saying she's going to have. And I want this to be community led. That is, if there's certain needs that you're seeing, we have typically 4 different types of interactions. One of them we call an insight. Another one is like opportunities, like when we had the Secretary of Economy and Technology from the country of El Salvador come on. We're going to have her come back and talk about what's happening with Bitcoin and why that country embraced Bitcoin as legal tender. And it'll have been about 4 months since we heard from her. So we'll find out more about that. So ways of entrepreneurs plugging into that type of opportunity. The main thing is then we'll have, like, sometimes we have trainings. And then today, what we're going to do is a community conversation where it's not about any one person presenting or interacting, or, I'm not interviewing anybody today. It's more about hearing from you guys and saying, hey, this is what we want to do. And a lot of what I think some of our most interesting, most powerful meetings are just where we're saying, hey, I've got the following issue. I don't necessarily know how to help my startup overcome the following thing. Help me out. And, it's not just me as, the expert, it's us as the expert. It's called the wisdom of the crowds. So with that, I see that there's a bunch of chat happening, and I can't see that on this because I have a much smaller monitor here at the house versus I have at the office. So I am going to stop sharing so I can actually look into that. And part of what I want to do is kick it off. Now, since one of the problems that I'm looking to solve, not only for Tech Ranch and the Venture Outfitter, but for the community, is having other programs that are proposed. And as before we started, the official program was mentioning, hey, I've got this one doc that I want to have. And as tell us about that, because it'll kind of set the tone for the type of programs, and, pick, why is it that you suggested her and stuff like that? Tell us.
Well, Dr. Andrea Leroy, I think she brings together the best of Western medicine and with traditional, other kinds of traditional healing things. And because she looks at the person as a whole, and she's a specialist in integrative medicine. And I am a product of her work in the sense that I lost, 50 pounds and cured many pains with her. Anyway, so she would just be a great speaker to come, and she can talk on a number of health related issues. One in particular that I thought that would be relevant for this community would be burnout prevention and recovery.
That's great. Yeah, one of the biggest issues that happens a lot of times, even if the entrepreneur is quote unquote successful or not, is you work so hard and then you just hit a wall. And preventing burnout of entrepreneurs is an important thing. So thank you for that. Do you know when you're going to have her scheduled in? Do you have any ideas about that?
I'll check her dates, but she's eager to come.
That sounds great. And so the idea here, by the way, Jello, for those of you who don't know Jello's my assistant, but he also does a lot of the production behind VO Weekly. He's got a Google form that you can just submit directly, onto the Google form that then goes into a Trello board. The Trello board is how we manage the production. I would love to actually recruit a couple of you, like I recruited Inez to actually be on that Trello board as well, to say, to help shape and influence what do we do, because the most powerful form of the Tech Ranch community is when it's driven by the community, not by me. Not that I have any problem driving the hell out of it, but I think it's more interesting to have y'all driven. Is anyone else got an idea that they want to throw out there to say, hey, I really want to make sure that we have the following person speak, or I'd like to see, actually, let's see, there's a question that one of you asked, what are the 4 types? Let me tell you the 4 types. So then you have some buckets you can actually drive towards. First one is what we're doing today, a community conversation. And at some point, what we'll do is we'll not only have the community, and we've done this in the past, we're not doing it today, but the community that's able to join absolutely, here in Zoom, as well as the group that is on LinkedIn. We'll have some chats that come back from LinkedIn. We've also published to Facebook, because some people can't necessarily be in Zoom, but they can sneak in through Facebook as well. So we'll have that bi-directional kind of interaction. That's a community conversation. The second thing is an insight. An insight might be, like as an example, the doctor that Inez just mentioned. Here's some insight about how to prevent and overcome burnout, right? That's an insight. It's something that we need to know, as just in our toolbox of different skills that we develop and stuff like that. The third thing would be a pioneer story. And Andrew Gardner, like I said, one of my favorite VO weeklies that we've ever done, Venture Outfitter weeklies that we've ever done, was, in September, Andrew came back and said, hey, what happened in August of 2021? We got 1,200 refugees out of, the overall program that the US, helped around 120,000 refugees escape Afghanistan that were likely to have been killed. One of our members, who we haven't seen since then, but he's behind the scenes, he's still very much involved in the Tech Ranch community. His pioneer story is he, leveraging our network and a few other connections that he had, assembled a team, pulled some people in from companies like Cisco and things like that, and saved around 1,200 people. It's really great. I love that sort of stuff, because we actually have examples of these pioneer stories where someone took a really big risk, but it actually really paid off. And the ... if you want to know how they do it, I just tell you the answers, so you go actually watch the story, because it's actually a wonderful story. Goat trails. That's how they saved all those people. Goat trails. And if you want to see all the other pieces about how a PhD student from Sudan made that tied into that as well, you got to go watch that video. So that's a pioneer story. We also had pioneer stories where we heard from Sheila around the December 23rd about how she brought mental health technology into Syria. And we heard from Arda about how refugees are being supported in Turkey. And so pretty exciting stuff as well from our network. So that's a pioneer story. And then the last type is called an initiative or opportunity discussion. One of the opportunity discussions was, if you have the Secretary of Innovation and Technology from the country of El Salvador, where they're trying out Bitcoin, and you actually can ask her directly, hey, what does this mean for me as an entrepreneur? If I'm building a Bitcoin or a blockchain or a cryptocurrency or crypto token kind of business, what does it mean for me? And you actually you can go to the source, right? It's pretty cool. She's 2 steps away from President Bukele of that country. She knows President Bukele. She knows why President Bukele actually did that. And so, having access, that's an example of an initiative or opportunity discussion. The other type is we have 3 main initiatives that are happening. We're not limited to these 3 main initiatives, but we have 3 main initiatives that are happening around the network. The Patient Care Innovation Bridge, that we've seen activities happen between Texas, Mexico, Italy, and Egypt. And there's been cooperation that's happened there. Then we've had the manufacturing initiative as as manufacturing is reshoring to the United States. Right now, we have a lot of activity happening that will actually put Peter on the spot a little bit, because Peter's from Hungary, and we've got activities that he and I did in Houston yesterday, around Houston, about tying Hungarian technology into Texas-based manufacturing, but also tying it into Mexico. That's around the manufacturing initiative, the supply chain initiative. The third one is the mental health initiative that I mentioned. It's kind of, my team used to joke that it's my pet project, and it has been my pet project for years. But the cool thing about it is this year, it's gone big, because anytime you get $1 billion foundation involved, all of a sudden that means that it's gone big. So I'm excited about that. So community conversation, insight, pioneer story, initiative, or opportunity discussion. Those are the four. If you have examples or suggestions, I'd love to hear them right now. And also it could be, okay, we'll talk about it at some point in the future. Or if you don't want to be on camera, you can throw it into the chat, or you can message Jello or me and say, hey, here's an idea. You can do what I call fire and forget. You can just say, hey, I can't necessarily help you with this, but one of the things I'd like to see is X. I'd be open to all those different things. Anyone want to hop in and just say, Kevin, before we switch to the next topic, make sure that you and Jello and the community schedule X, even if you don't know the person that you want to have like that. Anyone? Okay, I haven't heard anything yet. So one of the things that we'll do is in the general Slack area, in the channel called General, one of the things you can do is you can actually make a request. Make a request for the following thing. Actually, I'm using the language make a request. If you have suggestions for us, just throw it in there and stuff like that. As an example, I see Stephen Galbraith that is running an ed tech startup. It could be that you want us to bring some people from ed tech. Greg Hine, you and I had conversations about other things that entrepreneurs are up against on slogging through stuff. That'd be interesting.
Kevin,
yeah, go ahead.
Real quick. What about, have you touched on anything about hiring at all? So when you get into a hiring phase, what that looks like, and someone that you could bring on to talk about it?
How about this? I'd love to actually talk Linda in coming back. Linda that I mentioned from DualWorks, her business, is her business that she's done really well with is about onboarding and hiring people in. And I think like she knows infinitely more than me, right? And every once in a while I go over to her for advice. I think that'd be great.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead. Just throw out a couple other topics. Stephen, what would you like to see?
Like I said, hiring would be interesting to hear about. I would say, marketing, any type of marketing, whether it be local or online marketing.
One of our members is offered to do an advertising class. Sarah Montgomery, who's an advertising expert, has done that. So Jello, will you capture that? Sarah Montgomery at advertising. And then more than likely, and I'm talking to this later today, a gentleman by the name of Timothy, and I'm going to screw up his last name, because he's a long-term, like Timothy Morgan is a entrepreneur that used to be in Austin, who has a whole marketing agency. He's going to be getting involved. He'll be getting involved. Well, his organization is going to be driving a lot of the Tech Ranch marketing, so we could actually get him to come back and share. Jello, will you capture those in the Trello boards?
Yep, got it.
For those of y'all that don't know what a Trello board is, sometimes I say Kanban, sometimes I say Trello board. If you haven't seen that, even just some basic production about how do you get things going through your company, there's projects where you're developing something like a piece of software, and then there's processes, like as an example, what we have for VO Weekly. How do we make sure that things just keep on going down and adding in? So we ought to have a class about those, about how do you drive production, because I think it's really been helpful. There's a coach named Ari Messel who's offered to come speak to us as well. that he's one of the coaches I pay attention to every week. Like every week he has an impact in my life because I absolutely love working with him. We'll get him to come speak as well about that. And then you'll be like, oh, okay, I see why Trello Boards. What was that?
Like for example, on a Trello board, when to ignore something. So kind of like let that fire burn and go after the priorities, right? As you're progressing. So, how to, sometimes you just got to let things kind of go and move in a different direction. So,
there's another guy that I see on a weekly basis that he's not unofficially my coach, but he actually said there's two different answers to that, right? How do you prioritize is one of those.
Yep.
Another one that a gentleman by the name of Bart Sharp in Jello, since I'm right now remembering all the things that I forget when we're working on this, capture that one as well. Bart Sharp told me once about 8 weeks ago on a Wednesday evening, he said, Kevin, when are you going to give up the fight with the bad and the ugly so you can get to the good? Yes. So there's prioritization. Yes. And the second thing is, especially for guys like me or someone like me, hey, stop fighting with the crap that doesn't matter.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Because, every one of you that actually knows me, every once in a while, I can get on my own little holy war on stuff that doesn't really even matter. So what else? Let's see. Greg has said, hey, I don't have a mic, but there are a lot of topics. He said the health, education, and Bitcoin topics all tie in very well. The Bitcoin aspect is huge and offers many opportunities for this community. Yes, the education side I will contribute to. Okay, so Greg has a company that that I got to do some work with him and his co-founder last year, that what they would do is they could actually train people up on a cell phone that like into the construction and into nursing. It's pretty exciting to see what they're up to. So Greg, I'd love to have you come speak about that whole process and what you discovered, because it's related to education. And then the thing you were mentioning about Bitcoin, the other thing that happened is I just met one of the founders of Page DAO, Page DAO. What does the DAO stand for? Stands for Distributed Autonomous Organization. They're a publishing community that have 1,000 members that are trying to restructure all the different parts of the publishing world, because a lot of times the author doesn't get a very big piece of a book as it's going through, and then sometimes the author on certain topics needs a community of support for getting it off the ground. That is not, it's not likely. So that would be another thing that I'd like to see. So Jello, because I'm remembering it right now, must be the coffee or the community. We'll do that. And I know I'm talking a lot, so I want to hear from you guys as well. Who else has ideas that you'd like to see? Janet, Kim, or some of our new first timers, feel free to just step in, since there's a bunch of you guys today.
Let me think about it. I'll get back to you.
That sounds great. Yeah, and it's great to see. I see we have Nigeria, we have Mexico, we have Hungary, we have Brazil here today. We have Honduras, we have Russia, all represented.
And we have India as well. So hi.
Hey, Mansi
Gupta from India.
Perfect. What would you like to see? What would you like to see from the community? What type of topics in those 4 categories, or anything else? Let me know. Like,
so
is there anything
my
you'd like?
focus would be more on scale ups, maybe.
Okay, say more about what you'd like to see about from scale ups, or for scale ups.
So maybe people usually talk about whenever they want to plan into international expansion, North America only comes to their mind. But I think Asia, these developing nations, and especially emerging markets like Africa, Asia, have a great potential, and we can see massive growth in these markets as well.
I totally agree. So that would be great. Well, and so the thing that do is one of the things that Jello just posted into the the chat session is a link to an Airtable of, hey, here's how to, especially if you just want to fire and forget. And what I mean by that is just, suppose something that ends up that we work on. And if like Inez's example earlier, if you have something that you want to say, that the person that's like, hey, Kevin, this is the person, this is what entrepreneurs need, this is how it impacts things, that'd be great as well. And I totally agree with what Monty is saying. One of the reasons that as an example, Emmanuel from Nigeria, he mentioned a while ago that he's in a noisy area. He sent me a chat right now. Emmanuel is from Nigeria. One of the reasons that, that it's interesting, the technologies, there is actually a phone that's got Israeli technology being built in Nigeria that one of our members is applying in Jamaica to people who don't have access to, if you don't have one of these phones because of, financial reasons or whatever, you don't have access to a lot of different things. So we can extend services digitally if you have a phone. And then, you might not want a phone that's built in the United States or China. You actually might get one that's built a slightly more durable kind of way, like these ones in Nigeria. It's interesting to see how there's opportunities across different areas. Other ideas that you guys would like to see? Melvin, you're being awfully quiet. So I'm wondering, what's in the mind of the Marine that we have on?
And I just feel privileged to be here, Kevin. And I'm curious what's going on with Stephen on the educational side, being in higher ed myself. So can I push it over towards him?
No, push it over to me or
Stephen.
Yes.
Stephen.
So, hey, Melvin, good to see you again. So Eric and I, my business partner and I, been working with a developer. So we expect to start code maybe in 2 months, and with a goal of by May to have an MVP in teachers' hands. We have about 40 teachers that we're going to beta test with.
Stephen, do your elevator pitch real quick so people know, because they think it's the most important thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, you guys are pioneering an important area.
Yep, and I've been revising it a little bit too, so it's worked out. But just over the last couple months. So right now, teacher attrition is rising. We can all see that, and organizing around learning style for kids gets them more engaged. So what we're doing is we're putting a platform in teachers' hands so that they can better plan and organize for themselves and get their quality of life back. Because by doing that, the student is going to stay more engaged and be able to prepare to solve tomorrow's problems. And what's going on right now is, just in Hillsborough County alone, we have 500 teaching vacancies, which means about 8,000 kids didn't have a teacher last year. That's a problem. That's a major problem. And it's been getting worse and worse. Poll a couple of weeks ago came out, 43% of teachers looking to get out of the profession. And it's just starting to escalate more and more. And so no one's going to be there to teach the kids. So this platform that we're putting in place helps them plan, organize, and do a true peer-to-peer collaborating. So what that means is if I have a teacher who is in one part of Florida, say on the West Coast, and maybe I'm the only teacher that's teaching biology. Now I have a teacher who's in, Fort Lauderdale who can collaborate with me, because I don't have a true peer if I'm the only teacher that's teaching biology. So there's no one that I can relate to. So that's been helping out a lot. And all the feedback, we've done probably 600 teacher interviews. And so we have a base of teachers that are planning to use it. And now probably over the last month, we've started talking with superintendents, and the benefit to the superintendent is their attrition level drops off. So we anticipate the teachers that are using this, we're going to have about a 90% capture where they're going to stay in the profession. shooting for 100%, but at least 90% of those teachers are going to stay in the profession. So if it costs a teacher 10 grand to be onboarded by the superintendent, we just save that superintendent $10,000 that they can go maybe pay the teacher more money and retain them more.
Yeah, so that's real exciting. I mean, one of the things that Stephen actually told me about that I was really surprised about is there's been so much attrition. That the University of Florida, you said, stopped the degree program.
Yeah. So our University of South Florida in Tampa, they were canceled the bachelor program because and that's the compound issue that's happening, is that as these teachers are leaving, well, we don't have the younger teachers to fill the gap anymore because they're not getting in the profession. So University of South Florida came back and they're keeping the program, but it's not being funded like it was. So it's going to be a skeleton crew there. So we see that eventually is going to fall by the wayside. So if you're not training people to come into the profession too, you're just perpetuating the problem. So we have to make this profession desirable again, because the profession that the teacher was so passionate about initially has died after 3 years, and they're ready to quit because they get all these admin tasks that they just can't keep up with, nor is that really what's in their scope of their true self. Their true self is being with the student and helping that student get more engaged. So the idea is get the teacher out from behind the desk and in the classroom, mixing with the students.
So let's do this. One of the things that I recognize that we had in the past was a specific channel around ed tech, education technology, that which has been a long-term focus area of our entrepreneurs, and especially if you haven't heard about what Stephen and his business partner Eric are up to. Eric's background is he's actually supported literally thousands of teachers going through the whole process and trying to retain them. He's got a PhD in that area, very articulate. It'd be great to have him come on, Stephen, at some point and talk about I don't want to call it a horror story, but I can't imagine anything less. It's when we actually have people who want to step away. It'd be great to have him come as well. Jello, grab that and taraclassroom.com is your website, right?
Yes.
Cool. That's another good example. And so in line with that, one of the things that Greg Hine is also involved in ed tech. Melvin and Janet are both educators. What Greg is saying, a nice thing to have would be some way to network individually with the different people and companies. As a startup, it's super important to be able to dial into someone with similar interest challenges. Is there a contact list? So what's happening about that is I want to go ahead and make sure that we probably need to, I don't know right this second, which I'm embarrassed to actually say, I don't know that the Slack channel is still there for EdTech, but it needs to be brought back. That's the first question that we can do within 2 hours of the close of this program. There are other initiative areas that we should bring that we have as well that will be open in like open Slack channels. That'll be there as well. Stephen, I'll ask that you be the point man on the EdTech one. Part of the way that this works is we're using the model of how open source software works. How is it, these communities of people work, instead of building Microsoft Windows, right, which is very hierarchical. Over here, if you look at Linux and Android, for those of y'all that have Android phones, right, it's like this thousands of people kind of working in this very horizontal structure that actually leverage off of each other. That's really what we want to do, because that's been shown to be, Microsoft Windows has like 0.5% of the handheld market, whereas Android has like, 75+%. I don't even know what the number is. I know that it's more than 75. How was that possible? Because this is just a bunch of group of people. Well, yeah, we can take advantage of that same type of leverage. And part of it is, where the leadership on these different areas comes from y'all. And so Stephen, on the ed tech area, Jello will make sure that channel is set up. We'll make sure you're in it. And then a part of what we'll do is for those of y'all that want to be a part of that, like as an example, Melvin's an educator, Janet's an educator, Greg's an educator. Let's make sure we capture them and put them into that area. And Greg, Janet, Melvin, since I see you guys right now, if we don't get you invited into there, make sure that you get your own butts invited into there yourself, because it'll be an open channel that you can have access to. Let's see, there's been a lot of other stuff that's happening in the chat. And as in just a sec, I'll read through the chat and then I'm going to have you speak about problem solving. Vladimir says, I have to go now, but I'd like to see ideas about how to merge the metaverse, blockchain, DAO to give access to higher education to children in developing countries. I'm starting to work on something. So Vladimir, I'd love to have you come back and speak about that. Whether it's in like a formal insight for one of those 4 types, or to flip it on the other side, if it's just in the next time that we have a community conversation, that would be great. The other thing that's happening is Greg said, oh wait, I'll just keep on reading these out. I'm totally fine with you guys actually hopping in and saying it as well. Stephen, how are the big content corporations integrated into this concept? They're a gatekeeper from what we found. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see that little start of a conversation moved on to the moved into the Slack channel and have to all figure that out. And a reminder, you guys can be go-to-market partners together. Like right now, Stephen's got really interesting connections into the Florida educational system. And as he just mentioned, he's done more than 600 interviews in the last little bit. He knows something about that. We've seen the same thing happen with Kim Johnson in healthcare as well, right? Kim Johnson's been doing some stuff in patient care and stuff like that. Let's see. Inez, I'm going to have you make your statement. And then Peter, I'm going to have you report in about what just happened yesterday in Houston. But Inez, you first.
So I was just, as I was reflecting about the topic of problem solving, I just wanted to share, and it's also an offer. I learned when I was working with Perform Globally, and it's a German-based consulting company, I was trained in a process that is highly effective in problem solving, and it's a public domain process, so we can actually use it. And so I would like to volunteer to do that with a group of people if there is an interest for that. And basically how it goes is that it's a structured way of engaging in conversation. There is a case owner, so someone brings a real issue, something that they're really struggling with, that they're challenged, that they have already tried to solve in a gazillion different ways, and they didn't solve it by themselves. So they bring, it's called it's one form of peer-to-peer consulting. And so the case owner shares their real case, and there's a process that we go through to explore that situation from as many angles as possible. So we bring together a diverse group of people, between 8 and 12 people. And the more diverse the group, the better. And in about 90 minutes, we crack that case. And it's ideally, it will be facilitated by 2 people. So I can also train someone from the community to co-facilitate with me, or I can bring one of my colleagues to co-facilitate with me. And so that would just be one way of approaching problems that seem unsolvable.
Inez, would you want to do that in a VO weekly, or would you want to do it separate of one of these slots?
It would, I don't think the number of people involved, if it goes over that number, the other people could be observers, like the ones who don't participate, but the ones who are actually engaged, I would limit to 12. And also it needs more time. Like the group could do it under 60 minutes if it is an experienced group in the technique. But if it's a group that is doing it for the first time, they need 90 minutes to become familiar on how the process works.
That sounds great. Well, pick a time on base to what you think, whether it's in this time slot or separate, I'll let that be your decision. And, you know, obviously we schedule an hour. We can always have it be an hour and a half and set everyone's expectations that things might go longer. And then really the big thing is just making sure that we know that we cater to, you know, it might be something that you don't want to necessarily have, or the individual who's doing the problem solving doesn't necessarily want to have public. That being said, I'd love to do it. I'd love having that sort of stuff happen back and forth.
And we can do, so we could, if we can make the time like an hour and a half, then we could have like 12 volunteers. One of them is the case owner. And then we do like fishbowl style, in the sense that if we get more than 12 people in the room, they get to be observers.
I love it. Yeah. So someone decide when that's going to happen. Inez, it's on you.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll pick a date. And do you want me to bring a facilitator with me? Do you want to refer me to someone in the community that already has a facilitation skill that you would like to be trained in that?
I'd certainly like to learn it myself as well.
Okay, so let's
But
co-facilitate it.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be about me. So it could be someone else. It could be like Omar or Melvin or anyone else. I mean, it's like
Emilia also, she's I'm also putting her on the spot. She could also co-facilitate with me. So
yeah.
Okay,
Well,
I'll arrange it.
The best part about this is if you just see the screen that I see, just and I'm getting texts from other people that are actually watching the LinkedIn stream right now too. One of our long-term team members, and shout out to him, Lindsay Powell, he's Welsh, and he's actually participating in the conversation, although he's sending me texts back and forth saying, hey, you know, he's on there as well. So we have like in right here, right now, right? We have, like I said earlier, we have North Texas, we have Brazil, we have Washington State, we have India, we have Nigeria, we have our Egyptian American venture partner, Omar Zaki, we have Florida, we have Hungary, we have Russia. So it's kind of exciting. So we the best part about it is, thank you, Inez, for creating, we're getting closer to gender balance in our numbers. Thank you for your recruitment there. I'm real excited about that as well, because I would like to have a real heterogeneous group, because in math, one of the most fundamental things, if you want to solve all the world's problems, or you want to solve a really complex problem, the more heterogeneous the solution set and people with insight, the better chance you have in doing that.
Yes.
Cool. Thank you for that. Peter, I told you I was going to put you on the spot, since you're our Hungarian that happens to be in Texas this week. Hopefully you're staying warm, but what I'd like you to do is give us a quick report about about what's happening with your venture and your trip to Texas right now. You're on mute, by the way.
Not anymore?
Yeah, now we can hear you. Yeah, go right ahead. So tell us, what are you doing in Texas, son?
Yeah, actually, I'm freezing. That's the first thing I'm doing here. The second is I'm still in processing. You know, the yesterday trip, which was just outstanding. So Kevin and I went to Houston yesterday. Our trip were kind of prepared by Kevin and the Hungarian consulate. So they were so nice to get us connected with some players over there. And I'm, you know, as a Hungarian, I'm always amazed how people here in Texas are so open, nice and supportive. And being honest, I see a little bit of contrast to, maybe it's true, maybe it's not. It's just the first impression towards, and I can compare it to the first part of my visit, which I spent in the Silicon Valley, where, you know, it's a bit more fancier there. Yeah, people are friendly, they are speaking to you, but then after that, not so much things are happening, you know. And what I'm experiencing, you know, people are not only nice, but, you know, when they say something and when you feel that they are going to help you, and this is happening. And by this, I think that's the first impression I got, and I'm really grateful for that. And thanks, Kevin, for having the part of being the part of this community and working with you on that. So that's the first one. The second, which we always speak to Kevin about, is the importance of the network. So which I'm in the process of recognizing how powerful that it could be. So you can spend thousands of dollars to marketing. It will never be as efficient as, just go there, speak to people, exchange views, and that will start everything right. Yeah, in a nutshell, these are my experiences.
Yeah, it's great to have you here in Austin. Sorry that we hit a freeze, and hopefully stay warm, right? We can't send you back as a frozen icicle or something like that. But so yeah, Peter and I were in Houston, and the Hungarian consulate sponsored a Texas-Hungary venture bridge that started this last year. I met Peter when I was in Budapest on November 23rd. And part of what we're pointing to about how we can work together as a community and a network is, like, in a very, very short period of time, being able to get you in front of lots of different companies and stuff like that. And so we were at 6 different locations yesterday, everywhere from at the spaceport to a place called the Ion that I think we're going to actually do some other Tech Ranch is going to do some collaborative work with, and just cracking open lots of different ways of plugging in and stuff like that. So yeah, welcome to Austin, and we're going to have him in Chihuahua, Mexico next week. As many of you know, we have quite a few entrepreneurs that are in our network that are all over Mexico, especially but we have some really great examples that came out of Chihuahua, what is Chihuahua, Monterrey, Mexico, and Coahuila as well, which are 3 of the, well, I just named off a bunch of the cities, but also some of the border states where there's a lot of manufacturing activity. Peter's company helps manufacturers digitize their equipment to bring it into like Industry 4.0 type of standards, where, essentially, imagine you've got, you might not have the money to replace your equipment, your big manufacturing equipment, which is hundreds of thousands of dollars of equipment. You might not be able to immediately, replace it, but you can actually take their technology, which is, the brilliance of what's coming out of Hungary, a bunch of PhDs that they have for figuring out what's happening with that. Peter, anything else you would like to say before we were just about to close down for today? But anything else you want to say? Any requests that you'd like to make to the network?
No, I'm all right, and thanks for being here.
Yeah, well, stay warm, and if you need anything, let us know, because
Absolutely.
Yeah, he's just a little bit east. He's staying at an Airbnb a little bit east of where I live, and yeah, neither one of us is able to get to the office today just because of the roads being so bad. Cool. Well, there's been a couple of, I got several notes of people saying, hey, thank you for today. Yeah, real excited about having a number of y'all able to join today and stuff like that, and both on LinkedIn as well as in the community here in Zoom. We are looking at different tools. I'm always open to ideas about the best way for us to run these programs. Right now, we're going to just keep on using Zoom. I know that a couple of you actually suggested that we should use these other things. Please get the ideas in, and that, like, if you know of someone that you'd like to have participate, and that you'd like to have like an insight, community conversation, whatever, those 4 things I mentioned earlier, share with us. And in a perfect world, if you already know what the title of it should be, who the person is that should be, or people that should be invited, just write the description. Maybe we'll do a little bit of an edit on it. But the truth is that the way this works is it's driven by the entrepreneurs, right? And, it's like, one of the great things about working with entrepreneurs is, like, none of us work for each other, but we work with each other. It's not for, but it's with, and therefore we can do all sorts of really interesting things. And just rounding out a few other things to close up. If you're not on a lot of different, if you don't have a lot of the links, part of what we did was we started making a web page that has a clearinghouse of all the links. Get on the email list, get on the, if you want to be a country manager for a specific country, let us know. If you want a mentor, if you have someone that you think should be one of our mentors, we're about to start up the orientation process for that. Let us know. And, if you want to get involved on the Mighty Network, right now we're using Slack because it seems like people like the communication on Slack more than they like in Mighty Networks. but you can go ahead and list yourself as a community member here. More than likely, we're going to be replacing this tool with another tool that's coming soon. I'm waiting to hire the marketing team, but we'll talk more about that in a coming few weeks. But that's happening, and we'll be announcing a couple other bridges that have been agreed to that are getting kicked off as well, and pulling people in. I just got a question in the chat. Orientation process for what? For mentors, instead of just having a wall of mentors like a lot of different places have, I want to make sure, since I come from a martial arts background, I've studied Aikido for, I think, 25 years or so. There's a certain expectation of the senpai-kohai relationship that stands for the mentor protege. And by the way, don't use the word mentee. That's not what the word is. It's mentor protege, right? That senpai-kohai relationship, I think it should be structured. And so instead of having like a really long list of mentors that you kind of do a drive-by, I'd rather have a smaller set of mentors that we orient to how do you work together with entrepreneurs, like what's the right way of interacting. And we're going to be rolling that part out about how to structure that. We've got a historical list of mentors, and then we had a call for new mentors that we got a number of new mentors. I want to make sure that we're orienting them as we bring them in, because what I don't want to create is the drive-by mentorship that really is kind of more dangerous at sometimes, and when the entrepreneur, the protege, doesn't know how to pick his or her mentor, that's as much of a liability as because you might get bad advice and drive your company into the ground. So there's an orientation process we'll talk about. But back to the email list, get on our email list and things like that as well. And I guess since it's 12:01, it's time to close up. For those of y'all that I'm real excited about the energy for today. A couple of y'all mentioned it in the chat. Yeah, I get excited when you guys are here and when we really start doing this community thing. I really do, because especially with such a diverse group of y'all here today, it's pretty clear that working together that we can actually change the world for the better. Then, the metaphor is, if you want to take on the whales and the sharks of the world, a school of piranhas, a bunch of entrepreneurial startups can do that, because we can organize together, play to our strengths, and do that. And so it's always an honor to be a part of a group that's a group of entrepreneurs driven by vision and values for making the world a better place. Let's go change the world for the better together. And so with that, we'll call it done for today. Thank you for your time, and let's keep on kicking butt, taking names together. Thank you.